Hey everyone, Samuel Tanner here. This is the Samuel Tanner Show, and today's episode is titled Logic Party. And the reason it's titled that is because we're going to go into depth about what political party I belong to, and, well, it's an independent, and if I'm the only member, I get to name my freaking party, so I'm naming it the Logic Party. And I also do have little deep dreams of being the leader of my own political party. I don't know, that'd just be pretty cool. I hope everyone could be a part of this political party, but hey, who doesn't feel that way? Anyway, I'm making this video though because I want to maybe reveal any biases I might have, because sometimes I'll talk about political topics on this show, so it'd be pretty great if I have a bias, then you guys could be aware of it and then take that into account whenever I provide reasoning, just in case the bias ever slants the reasoning in a certain way. For example, Ben Shapiro in the Ben Shapiro Show, he's a huge conservative, huge Republican, super conservative, and that can be very important to know, because if you don't really, if you don't understand that, if you're not aware of that, the Democratic Party just seems like the most shittiest party ever made, and and you'll just get brainwashed into being a Republican easily. But then you stop and you think, oh hey, you know what, this guy's a conservative. The reason why I've never heard a single positive thing out of his mouth about the Democratic Party is probably because it's a conservative podcast or show, YouTube channel, and he has an article too, like Daily Wire. Anyway, so knowing the biases of the source can really help just understand the truth better, as opposed to just the viewpoint. And this is of course true for the Democratic Party as well. Most news media outlets that I'm aware of are actually left-leaning. So Andrew Cuomo in CNN is so far left-leaning that his brother is the governor of New York. I mean, I don't know. Actually, that's an unfair attack. I mean, it's possible to have a relative in a political party and you yourself not being in that party. But if you're going to be on CNN, I have to admit that is very suspicious. But okay, truth though is CNN is also very left-leaning. This is shouldn't be a surprise really to anyone, but it is, and same with a lot of other ones. So as long as you understand that, it can help you really decipher and think for yourself even what the truth of the matter is, as opposed to just taking someone's word for it, for example. Anyway, I always try to make my shows be such that you don't have to trust me. I'll provide logic, and this is the reasoning, and you can sort of look at it and just sort of think for yourself. That's the angle that I try to go with. I don't want it to be like, oh well, I think in my opinion it's this, so it's true, and then I'll just draw tons of conclusions out of that. That's what I'm trying to avoid. I hope I haven't done that. I'm not perfect, but anyway, that's the purpose of this. So let me give you my political leanings. I'm an independent. I am not a Republican, not a Democrat. I'm not a libertarian. I identify with a party of my own creation called the Logic Party, and the Logic Party differs from the other parties because it doesn't have any room for values, so to speak, or at least the cultural aspect that the Libertarian, Democratic, and Republican parties tend to have. Each of the other parties tend to have two sides of a coin. One is the social, cultural values, and the second is more policy driven, and there is some overlap in there, of course. So Republicans, for example, famously are just Bible thumping, don't have sex before you're married, excuse me, no gay marriage, no abortion, these really core conservative Judean Christian values. And but on the policy side, and granted, that's just a general case. I mean, of course, you can be Republican and just not be so far right-leaning or anything. So anyway, the policy side would be, for Republicans, as little government as possible, and for Democrats, it would be as much government as possible. Admittedly, I kind of laugh because I don't want to make that sound too crazy, because there is socialism and communism, which are really radical forms of being a Democrat, to keep that description very simple. And but yeah, generally when it comes to if there's a problem, the government should go in and fix it. Got Democrats. Or there's a problem, the government should stay out of it, so that way it gets fixed. Because the government will just make it worse, or the government was a problem to begin with. Republicans. Libertarians happen to be a bit of a mix of both, such that they're democratically social, but then on the policy side they're Republicans, so they just want to have little government as possible. But on the social side, be like liberal, so yay for being gay and smoking weed and all that stuff. Anyway, these are brief, rough around the edges descriptions. Of course, I mean you could do a whole episode just on describing these parties in and of themselves, but yeah, just generally speaking, that's kind of the fundamental core of generally of the Republican Party. Is just like as little government as possible. Every time the government imposes a rule, it's kind of like I'm trying to quote what I heard a little bit too, because it was worded pretty well, or pretty passionately, that what was it? It was that if the government makes a new law, then like that's basically an attack on your rights. Taxation is not necessarily like isn't like moral or something. It was really interesting. I don't know. I don't know. Like there's like a little bit like I can say is agreeable with that. I think anyone would agree with that. But anyway, whereas Democrats on the other hand, it's like, oh, a new idea, yes. Affordable housing, yes. Literally any welfare idea at all, yes. So these, I'm overgeneralizing this like crazy, but basically the point is that the paradigm really ends up being the fact that the government needs to step in to solve the problem, versus the government should not be there to solve the problem. If we have little government as possible, as much government as possible, and of course there are the social paradigms too that go with those somehow. And anyway, so Logic Party doesn't care at all about minimum government or maximum government or anything. That's what makes it different. It's all about what is the most logical policy that can be made, or what is the most logical decision that could be made to determine if a policy should be enacted or not enacted. And it does have this underlying premise that there is a most logical resolution, a most logical answer. This may be counterintuitive, because you could think that values like pathos, your emotions, or ethos, your faith, would have to actually play a role in policies, and it's inescapable. Well, actually, in the Logic Party, it is premised that no, you can do away with those, and you can still find like a more logical solution, as opposed to using faith, using culture, or anything, or using emotions or empathy, you name it, in order to come up with a solution. So, for example, gay marriage. Should gays be allowed to marry? On a Republican standpoint, the answer would be no, because that goes against the conservative values of there being gay people at all, and being gay is immoral, according to those conservative values. And then there's the Democrat side, which is like, oh, is being gay a new idea? Then yes, we love it. Be gay. We accept everything. We don't even care what it is. We just accept it. Anyway, my comical representations of the Democratic Party. And the point is they tend to be more generally accepting of things. So anyway, that would be one that would support it. And then you even have the libertarian side, which would be, well, like socially I'm for it, but the government shouldn't have been involved in marriage maybe to begin with, so fuck it. Like gay marriage is okay. Well, anyway, the logic. So I say, despite the fact of it being debatable whether or not values must play a part in. Let me rephrase that. So I'm saying, despite all those reasons that it seems like values would have to play a role in gay marriage or not, yeah, I'm saying that actually, despite that, logic can tell you if gays should be married. In fact, actually, I think logically speaking, gays should be allowed to be married. I think that it's definitely the most logical solution. So with that, let me show how it could be logical. Okay, so first and this is true for all the other laws, you look at the reasons why a law should be enacted and the reasons why it shouldn't. And if one really outweighs the other, then that's the direction you go. Okay, so let's look at the reasons why gays should be allowed to marry. Okay, so one is that there's a popular demand for it. Okay, I mean that's just one reason. Like if no one wanted it, like why? I don't know. Like it ends anyway. So there's a popular demand for it. You can also ask, does it negatively affect anybody's rights? And the answer is no. Okay, so it doesn't negatively affect anybody's rights. And okay, like let's just start there. So what about the reasons to not do it? Okay, well you could say, it's immoral. Yeah, just being gay is immoral. Okay, well first off, that's not logical. So fuck that reason. Secondly, actually, you know what? No. Let's attack it with logic. It's immoral. How is it immoral? Okay, well it's not natural. Well, okay, well logically speaking, just because something's natural doesn't mean it's good. Just because something's unnatural doesn't mean it's bad. In fact, in nature, there's murder, there's cannibalistic infanticide, for example, there's gang rape. That's how chimpanzees pretty much recreate. Don't even get me started. For example, even cheating on your spouse is natural. Birds, for example, tend to mate for life, but female birds can trick other male birds into thinking that like those babies are his, and that way like you got two male birds come to the nest dropping off food, and then what happens if the male bird finds out that those kids isn't his? Guess what? He eats them. He kills them. And actually, that's pretty common throughout the animal kingdom, where if a male or just another animal finds out that the kids aren't his, then he'll just eat them. It's not like ubiquitous, but it's pretty common. Anyway, so all that's natural. Having sex in public is natural as well. I mean, I don't know, I'm just saying. Anyway, so I mean, you can go on and on and on, and you'll be like, okay, well, immoral is a bad reason to say that like gays shouldn't be married. Anyway, you can see where I'm going with this. Is that there's this whole logical like weight scale that's going, and basically at the end of it all, it ends up being the case that okay, well, there's a lot more reasons to say it should be legal than it is to be illegal, and yeah, like that, and it's pretty much as simple as that. It's pretty unique because it also doesn't give a crap about this whole social paradigm. Although, granted, in the test of time, maybe there would be at some point. I don't know. It's kind of weird thinking of like a party and then thinking about how it might change over time. I'm hoping that with a name like Logic Party, that like in this fantasy world of mine where where a significant population of people become in the Logic Party, and it's not just me, and then dies when I die. Anyway, that the name Logic Party would sort of insinuate that if you have an illogical idea, then it doesn't belong in the party. So, whereas you look at the Democrat Party, it's like, well, is this policy is this good for democracy? It's like I don't know. Like we all live in a democracy, a democratic republic to be precise. And same with Republicans. Like, well, I don't know. Like, there's nothing you could really suggest except for anarchy. Anyway, so. That's basically the Logic Party, though. It really, really emphasizes that logic is just the end-all, be-all to deciding if a policy should be enacted or not. It also premises that there can and will and always will be a more logical, a more logical decision to be made on that policy versus like there being a need for there to be some sort of emotion attached to it or sympathy. So when it comes to these issues that I keep seeing over in the news, it's like, I mean, I can't say that I agree with it because it's Democrat or agree with it because Republican, because the paradigm of my party makes it so that way it has to be a case-by-case basis. Like it depends on the issue. It depends on the most logical thing I've thought of. Yeah, and that's another thing too about this party is it really encourages discussion. It encourages people to come together to figure out what the most logical solution is. Because one thing might seem logical at first, and then once you discuss it, you might find out, oh no, this other thing is more logical. Let's change it. It also, I hope, prevents umbrella issues, or umbrella policies. So like, one thing I don't really like, I hear complaints on like both sides of the party about this, where they get frustrated because one of the policies that's being supported by the party doesn't really even make sense with like it doesn't make sense such that it shouldn't be a partisan issue. So border security, for example, why is that a Republican issue? It's like, I don't know, but it somehow it somehow became one. Supporting police officers, that somehow became a Republican issue. I don't know, like, it's, especially from my standpoint, I'm just like, yeah, dude, honestly, just go with whatever the most logical thing is. Like, you can't just umbrella these things. I also hope it avoids contradiction. So one contradiction, I think, is that, like, in the Republican Party, for example, is the idea that abortion is bad. I don't get it. Like, the idea is that you have less government interfering in your life. So you'd think that the government would stay out of the way of you killing your unborn baby. So I don't know. But I mean, actually, I do kind of know the answer is that, well, abortion is sort of on the social paradigm side as opposed to the more policy-driven paradigm side. So, I mean, that's kind of why. But, like, still, though, I'm just like, like, you talk about infringing on rights. I don't know. Like, I guess maybe the fetus has a right. But you never hear arguments about a fetus having rights, ever. It's always just about it being immoral. And it's like, who cares? Like, that's not what the law is there for. Bias right here. Bias. See, I don't care about the morals of a law. I care about if it's logical, if it's fair. Okay? For example, I never give any examples of something that would be illegal. Okay? So like stealing, okay, obviously should be illegal, but how does that play within the logic party? How is it logical that you shouldn't steal, right? That's actually an age-old question, by the way. I'm reading the Republic, written by Plato, about Socrates. Anyway, so the reason why is because it's not fair. If someone comes into my home and steals my shit, like, that imposes on my right to property, okay? Like, the purpose of government is to protect rights, and there is a right to property. So if someone goes in and takes my stuff, then that violates that right. Also, too, that person isn't better than me, and I'm not better than that person. So for that person to take my stuff, it's kind of like they're better than me. Also, like, I paid for it, that person didn't, and they're coming and taking it, didn't have my permission, and they're taking it, broke into my house probably, and took it. Like, you get what I'm saying? Like there's no, then what are the logical reasons that the person could take it? Oh, because the person wanted it. I don't give a shit if you wanted it. I don't give a shit. That's not logic. That's feelings. So, I don't know. Just simple stuff like that. Now, granted, like, what's the logic behind having a right to property? Well, actually, I could come up with logical reasons. It's, but that's, God, that would take forever. That's hard to explain and would take a long time to explain. So, yeah, logic party. How about some more... excuse me, how about some more modern examples? Well, we have, here's one that I hear on the Democratic side a lot that I hate this with a passion, is this idea that there should be a minimum wage of $15. Now, before you get mad at me, because I know that I'm not, like, no one's allowed to think that you shouldn't be paid $15 an hour without being beaten with a stick, but just, like, okay, sorry, got off on a small tangent. So before you get mad at me, understand that the reason why I don't like it is because $15 is just such a stupid number, okay? It's true, people should have enough money to live. Yeah, okay, I agree with that. Okay, no one doesn't agree with that. But, like, why $15? And it really comes down to the fact that everyone who says a $15 minimum wage is a federal politician instead of a local politician. Like, if the city of San Francisco was like, you know what? In this city, $15 minimum wage is what we want. That would be amazing. That, like, I'd be like, hey, that's cool. You probably a lot of thought into that. I might want to research it some more, but, like, there's nothing I can see that's disagreeable right now. Whereas, like, but so for example, the one person running for Congress in my district, Cameron Webb, he's a Democrat, and that's one thing that he's that he proposes. I believe also so did presidential candidate, what's his name? I can't believe I forgot his name, but he was gay, he was young, he was going to be like the youngest president if he won. Well, anyway, a lot of Democrats and Democratic candidates, a lot of them do that, where they say that the federal minimum wage for the entire country should be $15. So for the Logic Party, that's terrible because it's illogical, because it doesn't make sense for the minimum wage to be the same in all countries as opposed to different in each country. Actually, the same in the entire country instead of different for each state, or even, actually, more specifically, each city. or town. That would make more sense. Okay, the cost of living is way higher in some cities than others, so why should the minimum wage of like Kobe, Kansas be the same as Folsom, California, or San Francisco, California? It doesn't make any sense, like to say that. Not to mention too, you look at consequences, and this is less known, honestly. This is what happens when you don't teach economics in schools, is that there are also consequences to raising the minimum wage, such as job loss. It turns out money is not an arbitrary, lovely number that has... Sorry, going on a tangent here, but basically you can still just analyze the reasons, and if it doesn't make sense, then don't do it. And $15 federal minimum wage is just a bad idea. In fact, I don't even see a reason for a federal minimum wage at all. Like a local minimum wage, obviously, but that doesn't what does the federal government know? Actually, you want to know how illogical it is? Let me tell you how illogical it is to say $15 an hour minimum wage. It is so illogical that in the military, they basically already know this. And I think even like the FBI and other jobs where like you may be stationed in other areas, like jobs like that, like they have something called the Basic Allowance for Housing, BAH. So I was in the military. When I was living in San Jose, my BAH was through the roof. It was like $3,100 a month. And it doesn't even get taxed either because, I don't know, it's just the way it works. So after taxes, $3,100 a month, okay, which I don't really know what the hourly rate of that. I think that's like $45,000 a year, which would end up being like $25 an hour, something like that. Actually, more than that because it's California and the taxes are higher, so probably like $25, $28 an hour. Okay. So it's as if the federal government already knows that you can't just have a... so it's like the federal government already knows that you can't just have a minimum wage that's the same for everyone, because in San Jose, the minimum wage for military, at least for the basic allowance for housing, is is like $25, $28 an hour, at least in 2016. So yeah, it just doesn't, like, it's illogical. So therefore, as a logician in the Logic Party, I would be against that. But then again, if someone were to say like, hey Sam, here are some logical reasons to be for that, and hey, I'd be proven wrong, and I'd be like, well shit, all right, I'm for it then. But that's, I don't think, gonna happen because I don't know, like a lot of people kind of think that policies are mostly opinion, I've noticed, but they're usually not. They're really usually not. It's usually more like 2 + 2 = 4 because of quantitative analysis, not because of faith. It's because of like analytical logic. Like, it's because of logic, and I feel that man, that there's how to kill my beliefs, and I feel that policies are the same way. Like it's logic, or at least there's a more logical outcome. Yeah, so that's the Logic Party for you. Let's see if I can think of a Republican policy that I hate. Republicans have been pretty quiet lately. I don't know. Tariffs. Oh, that's a good one. Actually, yeah. So tariffs. So Donald Trump, for example, but I think other Republicans do this too, where they say tariffs are good for the economy because they create jobs. Actually, I think every politician says that. Yeah, we'll create jobs, and it's like, that's not a good, like, that doesn't mean it's good for the economy at all. It sounds like it would be, right? And it creates jobs. What could be wrong with that? Anyway, back to the tariffs thing. Is that it's actually not good for the economy. If you actually like look at economics and you study it and you realize like, okay, so if we raise tariffs on steel or something, then that means steel in America is now more expensive. Meaning that every company that uses steel now has to increase all their prices, yada, 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 give you an economics lesson. But basically, I'm just saying like there's logic to why that's actually not good for the economy and it's bad. On the other hand, there may be other reasons to tariff countries. I'll drop a bomb on you on this. Like, actually, this is some logic that I've been developing, which is that tariffing China is a fantastic idea. Same with India, same with any country that will that's only cheaper to produce stuff in because they exploit the environment. Maybe even exploiting workers too. I haven't really developed too much of an opinion on that because I have, but it's complicated. So, but just going with the environment, because if you just raise the standards of environmental non-pollution or environmental friendly technology in America, then all that's going to happen is it's going to be cheaper to go to China and then have everything produced there and then just shipped over here. So if Joe Biden says, hey, $2 trillion, I'm going to raise taxes by $2 trillion to increase to increase the green efficacy of our companies, well, then it's now that much cheaper. I mean, maybe not that much cheaper, but like it's now cheaper to go over to China and produce things. So and why is it cheaper to produce things in China? Because they don't give a shit about the environment, because they're just destroying stuff. So logically speaking, then tariffs are good. So you see how that plays in. It's really just because of the logic. It's not because it's mean. It's, well, I like American workers. Yeah, give them jobs. That makes my heart feel warm. Yeah, buy American. Instead it's more logic driven. Although, I mean, maybe as far as someone knows, it would be logical to create jobs, and like maybe that's just the extent of someone's knowledge of how the economy and global economics and whatever works. I mean, okay. I mean, at that point, that would be the more logical choice. But I would say if one were to learn more, then it wouldn't be logical anymore. Same goes with me. Anyway. So that being said, that's my political leaning. I care about the logic, and I really only care about the logic. I don't care about anything else. I don't care if a Bible says it's immoral for gays to get married. I don't care. I don't care if a Bible says a man and a woman should get married because the government should because that's illogical. That's without logic. That's ethos. Actually, that's faith-based. So I guess if it's not clear too, deductions that can also be made about the fundamentals of the logic party would be that the government really focuses on fairness, and it focuses on being religion neutral. I would say, it's not out to go attack religion or anything. It's just that it's not going to use religion to as its reasoning to implement a policy. It's not just going to say, oh, that's Christian, therefore let's do it. Instead they're going to say that's not fair to everyone else, so let's not do it. Or even that's not fair to people who are religious, so we need to protect that. So I can go marry a dude. Anyway, that's about it. That's all I can think of. Jeez, that's all I got written down too. Anyway, logic party. That would be the episode. All right. Well, thanks for hanging in there. A lot of people do tend to ask me about my political affiliation. Some people guess libertarian sometimes, but nah, it's logic. I mean, you give me I don't know. Give me a democratic policy. In honest to God, if it's logically implemented, I'll be for it. If you want to say unemployment checks, well, hang on, how logical is that? Is it just, oh, I don't have to work, give me money? That's not very logical. Whereas if instead it's I don't know, just more logically implemented, like a small safety net where you're like, oh shoot, to my own surprise, I'm out of work, I need money until I get another job, and there's safeguards in place that way it doesn't get abused or exploited or whatnot. I mean, then yeah, sure, why not? I mean, that seems like everyone could have a demand for it. It doesn't seem all that unfair because it seems like one of those safe and rare situations. Just give you a quick example, I guess, but although I have to admit, some people think that I'm Republican. It's funny, because it depends on whom I talk to, because I just disagree with people. So when I talk to my Democrat friends, they just think I'm Republican, because everything they say, I just say, no, you're wrong. Then every time I talk to Republicans, they think I'm Democrat. I'm like, I'm just telling you, you're wrong. I didn't say what I am. But anyway, I just follow the logic. That's what I do, and I think everyone else should do it too. And I did forget to well, I'm going to do a whole other episode on it actually, but a bit of a sneak peek is that education does have a huge emphasis in this party, and I'm sort of pausing a little bit because I'm thinking there may actually be a social side to the logic party. There might be. and that would be that logic is very important, and is truth is the most important thing in one's life. It's a weird thing to say that the truth is the most important thing in one's life, but I hope as you've noticed, there's a lot of people out there that care about being right and they don't care about being correct. Okay, like they just want to say the right answer, even though they don't actually care what the truth is, and it's very destructive. And I think honestly the cause of really every problem that I can think of in this world. Racism's illogical. I mean, Jesus Christ, like, you couldn't figure that one out. Like, but see, everyone knows that racism is wrong, but now no one can really identify racism, so now everything's just racist, and it's like, anyway, that's a whole spiel. So maybe there is a social side to that. Yeah, social side to the logic party. I guess it is possible, and that would be it. Education was something I'll get into it in another episode, but if we're gonna, like, I don't really think that there could really be umbrella topics in Logic Party, but I think the more, but I don't know, that might be an unavoidable systemic thing that happens to all parties, that there's these umbrella issues that you can't really escape out of, and I think if there would be one, it would be education, and not just like, oh, throw money at education because education is important. That's stupid. Every politician believes in that. I'm not kidding. Like, you look at a ballot, like, at least when I vote, is like every politician says more money for schools. I don't even, god damn it. Anyway, but what I'm talking about though is actual reformation of the curriculum. Philosophy is the most important thing anyone could ever learn, because it's ways of thinking, it's how to critically think, it's how to not get tricked, it's how to come up with your own ideas, it's how to question, and that's the most important thing in the world. You'll be tricked by politicians and everyone if you don't, like, if you can't critically think. You'll group think if you don't have a philosophical mindset. And also too, obvious, I mean, I think it's obvious, we should be teaching more economics and political science in schools, because obviously when we get out of school, we sure do want to vote on these topics all the time. Like, I really don't think that people would be voting for Bernie Sanders, and I don't think that he would have become a runner-up to the Democratic president sorry, and I don't think Bernie Sanders would have been a run-up for the presidential Democratic nominee if people were to just learn economics. I mean, some people would, I'm sure, like, they'd know economics, be like, you know what, I want it to be this to be basically a socialist country anyway. But I think most people wouldn't. It's just, you can't do this. So logically, that would be something you'd want to teach in schools. Just basic economics. Don't, nonpartisan. Just talk about it. But like, seriously, teach it though. Don't just like half-ass it. My high school had like half a semester of econ, and like the other half was like poli-sci. But it was like, it was so short and so stupid. It didn't count for shit. I mean, we'll teach history. I'm ranting now, but like, we'll teach history, but no political science. Doesn't make any sense, because now everyone just thinks Trump is Hitler, and like, that doesn't make sense, like, but if you knew political science, you can sort of look at how Hitler came to power and understand, okay, these are the risks that would be taken, or these are the risks to look out for, so that way something like that doesn't happen again. Anyway, it's just idiocy everywhere. But hey, the mitochondrion is a powerhouse of the cell. We learned that in biology. Algebra 2, guys. Actually, that math is phenomenally useful, but no one ever teaches how it applies to life, so it ends up being phenomenally useless. Very unfortunate. Alright, so the second time I'm going to end this. This has been the Samuel Tanner Show. Just kidding, I'm going to actually say one more thing. I am seriously thinking about changing the name of this show to Logic Party, because that's also like a really awesome name. Because like, all I ever want to do is have a party of logic crammed into this little screen here. Like, that would just be amazing. I might do it. I might seriously do it. I'm always on edge about that. I'm always on the fence about doing that. But anyway, vote Logic Party. Wait, what color? What color should it be? I'm thinking green. Vote green. Green's like the color of logic. Green, like, it's correct. Red is like incorrect on like an exam or something. Blue is sometimes that too, but blue's already taken. Green's just the color of logic, man. Yeah. All right. See you later.